No getting around this segment. I love to be. Do I love to be proven right? I mean, everyone knew this already, right? Every young Republican is a neo-Nazi. The Republican Party is offering literally nothing to young men except being Hitler. That's it, right? Like, the Democrats are doing a shockingly bad job of pulling people over right now, but there are some young liberals, not lefties, but young liberals who are aligned with the Democrats because they hate Trump, or because they like being sort of the smug know-it-all liberal, like they're right, they're technocratic, they understand the answers to these questions, they know they're smarter than Republicans, which is true. Which is true. I don't have any hate in my heart for like young annoying liberals. I think that's a point many people reach in their lives, even on the way to becoming a leftist. I don't really think it's like innately morally wrong. I don't think they're to blame for the faults of the Democratic Party, to be sure. The Republican Party does not have this broad coalition with young people. I'm sorry to say. Yeah, boys, the group chat got leaked. I love Hitler. Leaked messages expose young Republicans' racist chat. Thousands of private messages reveal young GOP leaders joking about gas chambers, slavery, and rape. And it's all basically just Twitter. It looks exactly the way you would expect. There's no shocker here to the content. You can read all this if you want. Rape, Jews, death camp, blah 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 blah. Frankly, it's about as funny as your Mayo Sapien jokes, delivered with all the same wit and comedic rapport. Keep roasting chat for that. Oh, I will. I'm going to bring it up all stream today so that some people who join in later can believe I'm like actually angry about anti-white racism, YouTuber Vosh looking over the behavior of the young Republicans in their private communications. This is just as bad as chat's anti-white racism. Yeah, you got me. Leaders of young Republican groups throughout the country worried what would happen if their Telegram chat ever got leaked. The fact that they had it on Telegram is such an opening red flag, man. But they kept typing anyway. They referred to black people as monkeys and, quote, the watermelon people, and mused about putting their political opponents in gas chambers. They talked about raping their enemies and driving them to suicide, and lauded Republicans who they believed support slavery. So I need to proceed this once more with a reminder. These people are massive losers and are not even courageous enough to correct a waiter after the wrong order is brought out to them at a restaurant. Okay? We will see pictures of them soon, and you're all going to have to keep the laughter in as best as you can, all right? In Germany, when the Nazis were taking over, both the Nazi Party and the brown shirts they used to keep people in line, and then later, of course, the Gestapo and the SS and so on, most of them were veterans of World War I. These were people who had to climb over mounds of dead bodies in the trenches to deliver messages, people who resorted to cannibalism, people who had to like forage ammunition off the corpses of their former friends to keep firing at a line 2 miles down the way. These are people who were very, very, very accustomed to death. People who had a poor estimate. Guys, we'll get to the pictures. Why are you linking the pictures? I obviously already have the pictures. That's when I said when we get to the pictures. I'm pacing this. It's structure. You understand? There's a structure to the delivery of the information. I don't think cannibalism happened in Germany World War I. I think cannibalism happens everywhere hunger happens, and for the most part, people don't like to talk about it. I'm not here to cite historical accounts. I'm just talking about the level of suffering here, okay? Which there was a lot of, okay? The point is, these people had a very low opinion of the value of a human life. Nowadays, we're all coddled and comfy. These, Hitler-loving, gas chamber-loving, so on and so forth people, at the end of the day, their problems are the same as your problems. They don't operate on like a completely different set of axioms. They're worried about looking cool to their friends and appealing to the cool alt girls that they see on Hinge and Tinder. They look at their shitty apartment and they think, I wonder if I could watch a YouTube video that would help me better rearrange the decor in a way that makes it feel like it's more spacious in here. They talk about starting a diet. They think about exercising. They talk about how everything will be different once they do X. Their lives fundamentally are about the same as yours. They just essentially, how do I put this? They seek in-group approval with a different lexicon. You know what I mean? The point that I'm making here is that these people are utterly unserious and are not at all committed to the project that they claim to believe in. They're not really Nazis. They could very easily find themselves in a different group, a different environment, and they could change over. None of this, by the way, is meant to excuse them. It's not even slightly an excuse. This does not in any way lessen their culpability morally. What it means is, I do not think they are a threat. It's another expression of nihilism. You know what I mean? What exactly are they accomplishing here? See, the intelligent, dangerous neo-Nazis are the ones who keep quiet, the ones who are able to infiltrate political environments and weigh things in their favor over time. These people are ridiculous. Are you kidding me? They're in a Young Republicans group chat. They're just talking about Hitler. What the fuck are they accomplishing about that? What are they doing? I know that there is like a genuine push in their favor here, the idea of this being normalized, but stuff like this is never going to come across as normal or desirable to the average person, you know? It's just completely unserious. It's not really that different in terms of their psychological state to the people online who have crash outs because they're like Stalin's greatest defender and they end up losing their job because they go crazy and start threatening or doxing people and they have a fallout over it. The only difference being, and this is the one meaningful difference, the crazy tanky lefty types online have no institutional power. Young Republicans are entirely made up of these guys. That's the difference. Like, there is no institutional support for the crazy freak lefty, Lysenko had a good idea, Stalin was right to have killed all those people, blah, blah, blah. They are pariahs in every environment. The most institutional recognition they might get is some Russian-backed media organization in America telling them that they're very brave for, debunking the lies of the deep state or whatever, That's the closest they'll get. Apart from that, nothing. Young Republican Party, packed full of people like this. Packed full. Now we get to the pictures, and if we could, there we go. So up there in the top left, from the distinguished brown gentleman, Peter Gyunta. Great, I love Hitler. Everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. And up here from the Auschwitz victim, Joe Maligno. Can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic. Boom, they're dead. From this fella up here with the mop on his head, Alex Dwyer. 1488, parentheses, shorthand for Heil Hitler. That would be the 88 part of 1488. The 14 is the 14 words. He doesn't even... But on the plus side, he does think that Trump is trying to escape culpability for the Epstein files. We have a butch lesbian over here, who's very fond of the N-word in all of its forms. Would he like some watermelon and Kool-Aid with that? We have general posts from the Young Republican Party in this group chat. Watermelon people carving watermelons. Missouri doesn't like the F slur, which I can't say. I used to be able to say the F slur on stream, which I say all the time in my day-to-day life, obviously. Who doesn't? But YouTube doesn't like it. And I'm sorry for that, There's nothing I can do, about that. Samuel Douglas over here looking like, God, every right-wing YouTuber? All at once? You're... expecting the Jew, to be honest. The hat fella, who doesn't look too Aryan himself, in my humble opinion. I can't say these words. I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkey play ball. Bobby Walker, stay in the closet, F-slur. Oh, here's a picture of this one with Mike Johnson. This Tubillard. A classic faux pas. The baseball cap with the tuxedo and a collar gap. Well, Mike Johnson seems happy to be here. Holy shit, it's so teenage Nazi coded. Most of these people are in their 30s, mind you. Young Republican is a relative term. J.D. Vance immediately took to Twitter and defended all of them, of course, without actually, acknowledging any of the stuff they did. J.D. Vance is also an internet neo-Nazi. He's basically like the same guy as this crowd, just a bit skinnier. And called them all like, it's all like locker room talk with college students in group chats. But of course they're not. It's not a locker room and they're not college students. It's the Young Republican Party and they're in like their 30s. So you get me. And then this lady. But we're mostly making fun of guys here, and you all will make me, you'll accuse me of being a misogynist if I make fun of women. It's a double standard, and frankly, it's very bigoted of all of you. William Hendricks, the Kansas Young Republicans vice chair, used the words N-word and N-word. Sorry, I know. Less fun than me saying it out loud. Variations of a racial slur. Really? More than a dozen times in the chat. Bobby Walker, the vice chair of the New York State Young Republicans at the time, referred to rape as epic. Come on. I don't think actual rapists would refer to rape as epic. This is so stupid. It's such a soy thing to say, man. The soy is too much. Yeah, but this is how they all are. Like, we've all seen how these people act on Twitter. Of course these people are the young Republican chairs and vice chairs and so on. Peter Giunta, who at the time was chair of the same organization, wrote in a message sent in June that everyone who votes no is going to the gas chamber. Giunta was referring to an upcoming vote on whether he should become chair of the Young Republican National Federation, the GOP's 15,000-member political organization for Republicans between 18 and 40 years old. I'm going to create some of the greatest psychological torture methods known to man. We only want true believers, he continued. So many right-wingers love calling people raped on Twitter. Yeah, but they're all like the lolicons. Like, that's literally their thing. Like, their profile picture will be a drawing of a 2-year-old anime girl, and they'll say, like, you're raped, and then they'll get really, really upset if you make fun of them in any way, shape, or form. It's like part of the ecosystem, you know? Have they not grown up? Which generation are they? Again, a lot of these people are in their 30s. It's a group for, you know, young Republicans, like 40 or younger, but a lot of these people, these vice chairs or whatever, aren't like 18, you know, they're older. These people are not 18. Look at them. These people are in their mid to late 30s. I'm in my early 30s. I look younger than most of the people here. Though some of them, you know, it's kind of hard to tell. This fella down here could be any age, as it turns out. It's actually not possible to date this person. Well, in both senses of the word, actually. Everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber, and then everyone that endorse but then votes for us is going to the gas chamber. When do we start bullying, dude? We have a solid 3 people who can probably have them want to jump. If they vote for us, why would they be gassed? When do we bring that side out? I'm going to create some of the greatest physiological torture methods known to man. If they vote for us, why would they want to be gassed? We only want true believers. Can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic. I'm ready to watch people burn now. We gotta pretend that we like them. Hey, come on in. Take a nice shower and relax. Boom, they're dead. I'm gonna be real with you guys. I really don't think if Telegram was around back in like 1932, the brown shirts would have been talking like this. Boring soy, right? Who introduced them to their Nazism? Doug, they just were on like 4chan in their early 20s or whatever. That's it. That's all it takes. They just never grew up. It's the problem with the internet, right? Like, for the most part, people conform their beliefs to the groups that they're in. It used to be without the internet that in order to be like a dedicated, diehard, this is your day in life racist, you had to be like in a clan environment, or your family had to be dedicatedly racist, or you had to be in an area where it was possible for you to affirm it socially. Nowadays, you can be anywhere in the United States, and there will be neo-Nazis online to tell you that, you know, for the betterment of the white race, you must post anime memes about wanting to fuck your sister. You know, it's arrested development. It's a mental stunting that essentially equals. Well, I should say it's equal in kind, but not in severity, to what a lot of you people do with leftism. The reason I'm bringing up this both sidesism, by the way, is not to make a moral comparison. The reason I'm bringing it up is because for years now, I've talked about how the left, and we've always talked about this in the context of the left, right? How the left, in many cases, is full of do-nothings who are incapable of making any forward progress, personally or politically, because they're terminally online and interested only in the social affirmation they get from an increasingly mentally ill and socially ostracized group of their fellows, you know, online. So now Mamdani is liberal, the kind of person who would drop a potential victory to chase a moral one instead, you know. Obviously, these people are not in any way morally comparable to internet neo-Nazis, but behaviorally they are identical. It's the exact same behavior. These people are so stupid and so desperate for the affirmation of their peers, who are equally Hitlerite, that they would behave like this. These people aren't doing anything. They are utterly powerless, you know? A couple of them escape containment and end up making their way up to the highest chambers, like, say, Stephen Miller. But Stephen Miller is much more intelligent than these people. He's an example of what they think they are, but aren't. They're just chasing the social affirmation. Miller actually wants to build an ethno-state. So, credit to him? This exchange is part of a trove of Telegram chats obtained by Politico and spanning more than 7 months of messages among young Republican leaders in New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont. The chat offers an unfiltered look at how a new generation of GOP activists talk when they think no one is listening. Since Politico began making inquiries, one member of the group chat is no longer employed at their job, and another's job offer was rescinded. Prominent New York Republicans, including Elise Stefanik and State Senate Minority Leader Rob Ortt, have denounced the chat. And festering resentments among young Republicans have now turned into public recriminations, including allegations of character assassination and extortion. I have seen so many meltdowns on social media from neo-Nazis who are either a part of this chat or friends of people who are in this chat who are furious at what's happened here. Apparently, they claim that this chat was leaked by somebody who was blackmailed, like somebody who was in this chat was like pressured into releasing its information, which is really funny, you know, like all Nazi groups, they fold to pressure, right? Inevitably. And they've been denounced by the young Republicans, but the tweet of denunciation is like super duper duper ratioed, because obviously nobody on the left is going to go, nice job, young Republicans, for denouncing these neo-Nazis that operated at every level of your organization. But the neo-Nazis who operated at every level of their organization are pretty angry at what they consider to be a betrayal. From the Young Republicans National Party: we are appalled by the vile and inexcusable language revealed in the Politico article published today. Such behavior is disgraceful, unbecoming of any Republican. We disavow and stands in direct opposition to the values our movement represents. Those involved must immediately resign from all positions within their state and local young Republican organizations. We must hold ourselves to the highest standards of integrity, respect, and professionalism from the board of directors. Now listen, obviously, the young Republican Party does not care that a bunch of their members are neo-Nazis. They know. What they do care about is that these people are so stupid that they would be this open about it. Like, what about advancing these political agendas requires you to just out and about talk about Hitler and gas chambers and calling rape epic? Stop being cringe. That's what they're denouncing. But the young Republicans can't actually acknowledge that, obviously. If they said that, it would kind of give the game away. So they're trapped in this awkward position where they have to appear as though they were just, you know, completely unaware of the behavior of a bunch of people at higher points of power within their own organization. This has 14K likes and 15K comments. Everyone's mad at them about this. It's an optics loss from every level. It sows more infighting among young neo-Nazis, and it gives more ammunition to people on the left to talk about how, you know, all these people are neo-Nazis. So, great. Works out pretty well then. I'm happy with that, you know. This is what JD Vance said. This is far worse than anything said in a college group chat, and the guy who said it could become the Attorney General of Virginia. So the candidate for the AG in Virginia, for some reason, said some unhinged shit talking to a Republican. I don't defend that. For optics reasons, mind you, I don't defend that. It's insane that an AG candidate would text a Republican saying, like, I wish death upon my enemies. Why would you do that? Absurd. But anyway, of course, JD Vance is lying here. For one, this is not far worse than anything said in a, quote, college group chat. And also, it's not a college group chat. It's the Young Republican Party. Like, multiple state vice chairs were engaging in it, you know? Yeah. Let's continue. The 2,900 pages of chats shared among a dozen millennial and Gen Z Republicans between early January and mid-August chronicle their campaign to seize control of the National Young Republican Organization on a hardline pro-Donald Trump platform. Many of the chat members already work inside government or party politics, and one serves as a state senator. Together, the messages reveal a culture where racist, anti-Semitic, and violent rhetoric circulate freely, where the Trump-era loosening of political norms has made such talk less taboo among those positioning themselves as the party's next leaders. Frankly, I invite this largely because I think these people are so incompetent that they will run... They will ensure, like, another century where Nazis are the unambiguous bad guys in all media, and it's considered your patriotic responsibility to consider as such. You know, give me another century of Indiana Jones, please. They can't help themselves. Nazis are always like this. Internet Nazis nowadays, yeah. The original Nazis brought about ruin and misery for themselves and everyone around them, and they were able to do so only because they had a cheap enough view of human life that they were able to act in the ways befitting their ideology. Nowadays, everyone wants to live too badly. So these stupid, weak people are not. They can't follow through. It's all just vice signaling. The more the political atmosphere is open and liberating, like it has been with the emergence of Trump and a more right-wing GOP even before him, it opens up young people and older people to telling racist jokes, making racist commentaries in private and public, said Joe Fegan, a Texas A&M sociology professor who studied racism in the last 60 years. Can I posit something that might come across a bit controversial? And I'm not trying to do this in like a weird orientalizing kind of way or whatever. I mean it sincerely. I think one of the easiest tells for the difference between these guys and racists in the past is that if it was the 1950s and you were a racist white guy with a bunch of other racist white guys and you brought your girlfriend to them, like to the hangout, and she was a beautiful black woman, I think they would act out disgust and anger. I don't know whether or not they would actually be disgusted and angry, but I think that the social pressures at the time would compel the racist white men to engage in that behavior. They'd be very aggressive. Certainly, they wouldn't be okay with it. I think that if the same thing were to happen, except instead of it being a bunch of racist white guys in the 50s, it was like the Nazi group chat today, they would all immediately indicate that they were jealous. Like they would still say very racist things, you know, but it would always be like in the performative. I feel like this could almost be like a Zizek bit, you know, the performative expression of racism and disgust and disavowal, which once performed, they can immediately move past it and get to the sincere feeling, which is that, you know, their hatred betrays a deep like fetishization. You know what I mean? Do the voice? No, I'm just saying I could imagine it in his voice. Are you following what I'm saying? Performative racism, but they lust still. No, because there's a difference in the performative racism. I think that back then it would have been genuine, or at least genuine seeming anger. And nowadays it would be like a thin shell, like a superficial formality that would have to be acknowledged before they would get to the shit they're actually talking about. Again, we've all seen how there's no cover to their behavior. They're all over Twitter. I'm on Twitter. Are you on Twitter? We all know how they behave about all of these topics. To them, all of it, it's all a joke. The racism, the white supremacy, the desire for a white ethno-state, the hatred of Jewish people, the defense even of Donald Trump and their broader political project, all of these are they're nihilists. These are superficial veneers of positions. They're things that they take only because it's based and epic to take them, you know? It's not like a genuine commitment. Yeah, they don't believe in anything. They're ultimately slaves to the same, base and superficial interests the rest of, everyone else has. They don't have any ideological convictions. I guess the point that I'm making is that to a leftist, there are plenty of times in your life where you want to do something and then you'll pause and go, after having reflected on my values, I think I will not do that. It can have something to do with tourism, sex work, watching a piece of media, giving money to a given business. It can be a million things. You can pause and go, I don't think that, I want to do it, but I won't do it. I don't think they would ever do that. Can you think of a time they wouldn't? Is there ever a time for so many of these believe in nothing internet neo-Nazis where there would be a conflict between their immediate desire, their moral system, they would pause, reflect, and go, no, I want this still, but my moral system denies me they wouldn't. The thing they want and their moral system will always align. And if there is a conflict, they'll paper it over. I don't think I don't think they do that. You know? They would still all go for the hot trans chick? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I do think that. 100%. The real problem is that they're not actually evil, they're just losers. Well, the fact that they're losers makes them being evil less dangerous. So I think I'm glad these two forces are canceling each other out. It's just they must feel so pathetic and weak and impotent all the time. I know fat people. For the most part, the fat people that I know are like, yeah, I'm fat, yummy, but then they just live their lives. And, okay, get on the Stairmaster if you want to up your actuarial chart if you want, but whatever, it's your problem. It's not mine. This guy hates himself because this guy is consuming, propaganda from Indian-run Twitter accounts where the Avi is like a AI Greek sculpture with an 8-pack, talking about how all white men have a moral obligation to sculpt their body in the image of the gods or whatever. I just don't think this ideology is making them very happy. I think they need a different social group. I really truly think that if you put these people in a different social group for 3 months, they would all change. I don't think they believe in anything enough. It's not the same with us. Because even if you put a leftist in a Nazi group chat for 3 months, and even if you found these people generally likable despite their politics, and I know that's a tough proposition, so I'm saying like you'll have to leave a lot on the table for that to even be conceivable. But if you could do that, there's nothing about that that would inherently undermine your moral positions. You might be able to get along with these people, and then in your head you're still like, these are all wretched people, and this doesn't change anything about what I think is morally right or wrong. I don't think it's the case with them. I'm sorry, I'm doing a lot of psychoanalyzing, but I think stuff like this is really important because a wrong-headed attitude when looking at this behavior can lead you to really bad analysis. And I see a lot of people engaging in really bad analysis. You have to mock these people because they're laughable. They're jokes. It's funny. I don't think fat people innately are funny, except in a kind of tuba, like in a tuba playing kind of way, just generally the way everyone does. But I find this very funny. Deus Vult, 1488, so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. Also, you're fat. What are you doing? You all rape is epic? What are you doing? You don't care. What are you talking about? You're not a Hun pillaging. You don't have concubines. You're this. Or actually, who's the rape is epic from? Bobby Walker. Which one is Bobby? Oh, that's Bobby Walker. This is the other, the other really fat one. They're all pretty fat. Yeah, that's the guy who's like rape is epic. Do we think this is a sincere reflection of his day? Do you think he's scanning the streets like some kind of like the Jack the Ripper, like some predator? Maybe. I don't think so. I think you're just trying to impress the guys. It's gay, frankly, and you are scared of women. Okay. I'm like, this ideology is not making you happy. You are not succeeding in your own set goals. You need to get past this, okay? For your own good. I don't know. I wouldn't leave him anywhere near my nieces. Given. Am I like circling back to the reverse position? I feel like I'm doing the horseshoe theory thing, but not morally. The fallacy of the horseshoe theory is the idea that the far right and far left are ideologically similar, which is not at all true. Behaviorally, there are similarities. I wonder if I'm right now kind of like reaching at the opposite of a point I made a while ago, which is that good politics does not make a good person. A person can have the right politics, trans rights or human rights, Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 and still be a wretched person interpersonally. There's basically no correlation, really. I mean, maybe a slight one. I wonder if what we're reaching at here in a way, in a way, not entirely, but in a way, is the opposite of that, where like, I feel like there might actually be almost an inverse correlation between a rapist and a guy saying rape is epic. Does that make any sense? Like, it's such a disconnected statement. It's so disconnected from like the brutal reality of a person who knows they're a rapist that it almost inverses. Yeah, it's almost like, well, now I think it would be like a virgin saying something ridiculous about sex, and then you're like, oh, you've never had sex, you know? Maybe I'm wrong on that. I guess I'm just like, because it's a psychological phenomena. These people, they're the soyest among us, germaphase, and they talk like how they think based epic red-pilled SS Wehrmacht whatever dipshits would if they lived in the modern day, but they don't. I don't know. Trump is an exception to this, no? No, well, he doesn't really fit into it. I'm more talking about a broader pattern of behavior here than I am like any individual's, you know, set of beliefs. But I remember you went in a rant a while back that being a Nazi could qualify as a type of psychopathy under the DSM. Well, it would depend on how it manifests. I guess my point is that I don't really think these people believe in Nazi things. I think they believe that it looks cool for them to believe in Nazi things. Maybe some of them do believe in Nazi things, but it really just seems like it's all like a point of opportunity to them, and they could just like they could just drop it and go find new friends and live a normal life, and they would probably be fine. I don't know. Just weird. Weird shit. Why is everything us versus them with y'all? For one, we're talking about Nazis, but for two, I'm trying to further investigate their... Wait, are you crazy? Didn't you just post something? Someone told me Vosh is suppressing Appalachian leftism. Apparently he and Hassan have a document that they're hiding. Okay, I'm going to break this to you easy. You are mentally ill. This goes beyond you having been fed bad information. You have a diagnosable condition. And I'm not judging you for it. And maybe I'm wrong. But you need some kind of help. Is this like Chat GPT induced schizophrenia? Release the goddamn Appalachian documents. The group chat members spoke freely about the pressure to cow to Trump to avoid being called a rhino, the love of Nazis within their party's right wing, and the president's alleged work to suppress documents related to wealthy financier Jeffrey Epstein's child sex crimes. Giunta claimed the release of the chat as part of a, quote, highly coordinated year-long character assassination led by Gavin Wax and the New York City Young Republican Club, in allusion to a once obscured internecine war that has now spilled into the open. These logs were sourced by way of extortion and provided to Politico by the very same people conspiring against me, he said. What's most disheartening is that despite my unwavering support for Trump since 2016, rogue members of his administration, including Gavin Wax, have participated in this conspiracy to ruin me publicly simply because I've challenged them privately. It's all personal grievances with these people. Despite his allusions to infighting, Giunta still apologized. Oh no! I am so sorry to those offended by the insensitive and inexcusable language found within the more than 28,000 messages of a private group chat that I created during my campaign to lead the Young Republicans, he said. While I take complete responsibility, I have had no way of verifying their accuracy and am deeply concerned the message log in questions may have been deceptively doctored. Ah! No! Never apologize. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, Trump and Vance never apologize for shit. Somebody wants a career after all this falls apart. Appalachian Spring is a document that literally explicitly calls for radical peace and love. You may think the solution is crazy, but by dismissing the solution, you are dismissing the voice of, okay, we're localing the mentally ill. I have a rule against this. Unplug, God be with you. I love you. I have read Appalachian Spring, and I have learned of its message of peace, and I am relaying that peace and love to you, okay? God be with ye. But also, good luck. I don't know, man. It's being online. It's mental illness on my primary monitor, mental illness on my secondary monitor over here. Keep them as a pet. What the No, I don't think you should do that to people who are like really delusional, because then it just feeds into it. You don't want to do that. There's a difference between a person being quirky and a person being like very wrong-headed. It's just a very funny picture. The rest of this, it reads out about how you would expect, I guess. I'm more interested in the analysis. Does everyone understand what I was getting at? I'm worried to look at YouTube chat because I'm worried like there are going to be a bunch of people there. Like I look at YouTube chat and there are people there who are going to be like, why are you defending Nazis or some inane low IQ shit like that? I don't know. It's very, very strange. It's very strange. I don't do it. Actually, YouTube chat seems fine right now. Maybe I shouldn't have assumed without evidence. I shouldn't have assumed without evidence that it was bad. Wait, they're a man? Yes, this is a man. This is a biological male, to use the language that they would prefer. I didn't get the horseshoe theory stuff at all, lol. I think it's that, okay, in a Marxist materialist sense, all right, I think that people's beliefs, or maybe the way they approach those beliefs, are born largely of the environment that they're in. The material conditions, if you will. What they're exposed to, what they're comfortable with. For example, having been to a war massively changes what a person is likely to do or be willing to do in times of civil unrest, right? That makes sense. Not only have you been through military training, you've also been in combat, but presumably we'll say, let's say, you know, if it's World War I or World War II, combat situations, like the way you address the world is going to be different. We know after World War I that in both Germany and Italy, the main bulk of fascist supporters, at least the most violent and effective ones, were World War I veterans who felt kind of betrayed and emasculated by their failure in the war. They hadn't been given the rewards they wanted. They hadn't been able to provide for their families. And also, they were very, 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 very violent and mentally ill. World War I veterans, basically all of them, were extremely crazy, because this was before we had like modern psychiatry. Like they all imagine going to World War I, and later you're like you're talking to your friends and your wife, and you're like, I don't know, sometimes I still hear the voices, and they're like, you could use some liquor, chap. Here, let's get you to the pub. Like that was the closest that you got. And yeah, they called it shell shock, and they did not have effective treatments for it. The point I'm getting at is that like it was a particular point in time that led to that being possible. And now it's like why Pol Pot killed so many people. How was Pol Pot capable of killing so many of his own people, right? When he did forced marches out of the cities in Cambodia, as people like walked barefoot dozens and dozens of miles through dense jungle and passed by piles of bodies of their own people who had been left on the side of the road so the corpses would bloat in the morning sun, like, how could Pol Pot have looked over all that and been like, I love improving Cambodia. Yummy. I love improving the Khmer people, you know? And the answer to that is because Pol Pot grew up in an environment where everyone was dying all the time, constantly, all the time. He just didn't give a shit. It was just not like it was like he was as indifferent to the deaths of human beings as most of us are indifferent to the death of like cows in factory farms. It's like an abstraction. And it was an abstraction to him. And I think it manifested in his behavior. So what we have right now is a disconnect where the leftists in America today are, at least in a policy sense, are capable of enacting their political vision in a way that works with the times, right? You can do Mamdani shit. Pol Pot was a rich boy and went to University of France. Yeah, and what happened before he went to university? I know about his history. Anyway, you can do the Mamdani shit. You can improve people's lives. But how do you do the Nazi shit today? Like, I really don't think there's any change to the political environment in America that's going to get a bunch of these like lazy, entitled fat people to get up and start like doing Nazi shit. I don't know. I don't really think it's possible. You can get targeted bits of cruelty enforced by the state, but it's expensive and not very sustainable. And ICE is faltering despite the massive amount of money being dumped into them. And we're already like well over budget anyway. So like, Vosh, you are literally doing the "it can't happen here" bit. I think that you're misunderstanding me. I'm not saying that authoritarianism can't happen here. It already has. What I'm saying is that the conditions that allowed the original Nazis to do the stuff that they're now salivating over, those conditions no longer exist. It was an environment where life was a lot cheaper. And in that environment, the original Nazis, the Nazi Party, was able to do stuff that today many Nazis consider to be desirable, but they can't do it. And they don't even want to do it. They don't want to do it. These people with haircuts like this and suits like this and stomachs like this don't want to live in the world that is as cruel and austere as the one they claim they want to build. They just want to be epic and based in their group chats. There is a disconnect between the world that they are capable of building and the world they claim they want to build, and the world they actually want to live in. And the world they want to live in is one where liberal institutions like them and they feel handsome and pretty and they have a cute girlfriend who gives them the sloppy toppies, okay? That's the world they want to live in. These people do not, in their quiet moments late at night before they fall asleep, fantasize about waking up in Nazi Germany. They don't. They might fantasize about waking up next to a cute Aryan trad wife, a la like Nazi Germany styling, but ultimately what they're looking for there is the wife. It's all edgelord propaganda. It's all fake. That doesn't mean they're not dangerous. They are dangerous, but they have to be thought of differently. These are not, treating these guys like brown shirts or like, early Gestapo officers or whatever would be as wrong-headed as treating modern day Mamdani leftists as the like union anarchist, like fighting with the cops at the mountains type of organizers back in the early 1900s, you know? It's the ideology, there might be a continuation, but there's a massive disconnect, you know? Rednecks? Well, the original rednecks. Anyway, I'm not saying it can't happen here. It really is postmodern fascism. I like liberal fascism, but honestly, postmodern fascism might be more accurate. It's just postmodern is such a vague, nebulous, and oft misused term that I feel uncomfortable like using that term over and over because I don't want people to misunderstand it. So I'll probably just keep using liberal fascism. I think it's descriptive enough. You could also say the radical far left is better than the radical far right. Yeah? Yes. Hopefully we can all take that for granted, I guess. The idea that basically any group of people anywhere is better than neo-Nazis. That's like an easy go-to for me. Aren't we past postmodern yet? Postmodern doesn't describe an age or an era or a length of time. It describes like a rejection of modernist ideology. Mind you, fascism isn't itself a modernist ideology. So, well, okay, fascism is idiosyncratic. There are elements of it that are modernist in nature, and there are elements of it that are not. Well, no, I take it back. Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, it has to be. No, it is. It's modernist. It's modernist. 100%. Well, it's kind of postmodernist itself in its beginning. Well, I don't know. Great minds are still debating. Conclude. We've been on this for like an hour, man. Is there such a thing as liberal socialism? Yeah, it's called social democracy, and we've been suffering from it for a century. Every time you say well, Bagheera voice matches you, just so you know. Well, I didn't hear a squeak there. You lied. Oh my fucking god. Gibson reviewed multiple excerpts of the Young Republicans chat provided by Politico. One was a late July message where Mosman, the chair of the Arizona Young Republicans, mused about how the group could win support for their preferred candidate by linking an opponent to white supremacist groups. But Mosman realized the plan could backfire. Kansas's Young Republicans could end up being attracted to that opponent. Can we get them to start releasing Nazi edits with her, like pro-Nazi and fascism propaganda? He asked the group. Oh my god, I love this plan, said Rachel Hope. The only problem is we'll lose the Kansas delegation, Mosman said. Hope and the two Kansas Young Republicans in the chat reacted with a laughing face to the message. Hope did not respond to requests for comment. Mosman declined to comment. Very nice. Weeks later, somebody in the chat asked, staying in a hotel asks its members to, quote, in all caps, guess what room we're in? 1488, Dwyer responds. Dude, look at my arm. Goosebumps. They support slavery and all that shit. Mega based. Do you think he actually likes slavery? Like, really, truly, do you think he likes slavery? Because I don't. I do not think that if we could create an alternate world which is much like our own, except slavery has been reinstated for non-white Americans, and he lived in that world, that he would be happier in that world than this one. I don't believe that. It's just based. In another instance, Mosman told the group that, quote, the Spanish came to America and had sex with every single woman. Sex is gay, Dwyer writes. Sex? It was rape, Mosman replies. Epic, Walker says. Which one is Walker again? Walker's this one. Okay, that's the guy. Which one's Mosman? This one, big hat, down there in the bottom left. Democrats are losing to this, by the way. True. They lost the young male demographic to this. I see what you're saying now. The best way to stop them is shame, because unlike old Nazis, they're just responding to social pressure. Yeah, to a large extent, I do think that's true. I think that if you talk about these guys as though they're this big militant threat, this guy saying rape, rape, epic, raping women, sex is gay, rape is based. When you react to people like this and perceive them as an actual threat, I think it ingrains them in the stuff they believe, because these people like the idea of being taken as a threat. For the exact same reason that you guys like it when you're treated like some kind of militant Antifa group, you know? Like on one hand you say, no we're not, but secretly you delight at the idea of some federal agent considering you some kind of actual threat when you know fully well that you're not. People like being treated as threats because it affirms their self-seriousness. It's just generally, like, this isn't a Nazi-specific thing. They're just not, they're really pathetic. Like, it's really embarrassing. I'm not scared by any of this. Nor should you be. What platform was this? Telegram. Vosh, you should look at trans porn statistic. It flares up in red states. Yes, I know it's a well-known factoid, yeah, that a whole bunch of types of pornography that right people complain about, or people that right-wingers complain about, are more popular in those areas, yeah. They're very weak people. Giunta had expletive-laden criticism for the Young Republicans in states that were supporting or leaning toward Paget's faction. Minnesota F-slurs, he messaged, continuing. Arkansas, inbred cowfuckers. Nebraska, revolt in our favor, block their bind and have a majority of their delegates. Maryland, fat stinky Jew. Rhode Island, traitorous either C-slur or the other C-slur, who I will eradicate from the face of this planet. Giunta said he planned to make one of the competing Young Republicans, quote, unalive himself on the convention floor. You know where I recognize this language from, like most readily? Fandom drama, you know? New York State Young Republican account be like $500 balding cream, $1,000 Ozempic, said Walker in one message. If we ever had a leak of this chat, we would be cooked for real, for real. Walker seemed to be the most, like, aggressive poster here, and he also looks the funniest, so I guess that kind of tracks. I just don't think that people who are succeeding in their day-to-day life really feel a need to act like this online. And I mean that both for the right and for the left, you know? Generally, the people who are the most, like, you know, Vice Signal, I am the future, I am the edgelord, look at me post, yeah, like Squirrel Girl types, basically, not the comic book character, the Twitter poster. Anyone who falls into this archetype socially, it's not like they're doing well in real life. Who even leaked this? A member of the group chat? Allegedly, yes. Anyway, we've dunked on these fellas for long enough, and I don't regret a moment of it, but we have to move on.